What's up, everybody? Andrew Herbert here. We are going to talk about the best lift, which is the deadlift. I pull conventional. I do train occasionally sumo, but conventional is the way I compete and what I'm most comfortable with. You may be more comfortable with the sumo deadlift, which for the record is not cheating. Sumo and conventional are both equally good. Just depends on your leverages and the strengths. For sumo, I would recommend looking at videos by Steffi Cohen or Dan Green. Those are some very good sumo pullers with also different body types. So for me, conventional, from start to finish, I approach the bar. I like to be centered before I even approach it, it's kind of like a ritual. And then I get my foot placement. And foot placement is, just like with all the other lifts, it's variable. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. It's what works best for you. And especially in the off season or before someone becomes competitive, I encourage trying a bunch of different foot placements. You're probably not going to go wider than this, but some people who go almost practically, heel to heel. Mine's kind of in the middle, and it's a matter of being able to get as much leg drive as possible, but without being in the way of your arms. So, because one thing to think about is, with powerlifting, you're trying to minimize range of motion. And so the shortest distance between two objects is a straight line. So I want my arms to be straight lines down. Anything different from that is going to make the bar have to travel further. And with maximal weight, a centimeter difference can make a big difference. So with my arms straight down, I don't want my knees to get in the way of that. So straight down for me, I'm grabbing it right around here. As you can see, my knees are not in the way. Now, if I had a wider stance like this, then my knees start getting in the way, and that's not good. Now, that being said, you may see some of the big strongmen types take a wider grip, and that works for them. Again, it's worth toying with, but for me, and probably most people, it's going to be basically a straight arm downward grip. Also, how far forward and back you are is pretty important. Originally, when I started deadlifting, I thought I was told to have my shins against the bar. That's too far forward because, as you can see, I'm standing straight up with my shins here. As I bend down, they're coming forward. It's going to already hit the bar and move it forward. So what I like to aim for is, and you'll even see me in competitions, I'll even basically put my hands down and look to make sure that the bar is right over the middle of my foot. Like the middle, the back of my laces, basically right before the knot. Or when I'm deadlifting in slippers, basically just the middle of my foot. So then I angle my feet slightly out. It just makes it more comfortable to get leg drive. And another thing I do to test my distance from the bar before I deadlift is I'll lean forward and make sure my shins can touch when I'm leaning forward. That's how I feel I'm in proper position for me. Then from there, I'll get my hand position. And regarding grip, there's obviously double overhand, there's hook, and then there's mixed grip. I'm a proponent of, and what I do is I use double overhand all my warm-up sets until I can't do it anymore. And then I go to a competition grip, which is either going to be a hook grip or a mixed grip. For me, I use a mixed grip. I encourage people to try a hook grip. I think if it works for you, that's probably a superior grip, but it doesn't work for a lot of people. And sometimes it doesn't feel as secure. And when it comes down to confidence, you want to be confident with your hold on the bar. So as of now, I do mostly mixed grip. This being lighter weight, I'm going to start with double overhand. So get my foot placement, got my shins against the bar, bend down as much as I can, and then grab that straight arm down position. And then I really dig my hands in because I want to have as firm a grip as possible, as opposed to, I mean, it's barely perceptible, but that little difference right there is huge. I want to be gripping the bar, curling my wrists, squeezing my thumb over my fingers. At this point then, I'll rotate my arms like this to lock my lats in. So I don't want them out here, lock them in. Then right before I initiate the pull, I'll dip down and start the pull. With the pull, there's kind of the pull before the pull, which is you're pulling some of the slack out of the bar. So when it's heavy enough weight, and depending on the bar, the Texas deadlift bar, for example, there's going to be that slack. You want to get that out before you're actually leaving the ground. Also, that initial pull helps you get your back tight and your arms tight and everything like that before you start pulling up. And a note on the arms, a cue that I always think about is contracting my triceps while I'm deadlifting. And the reason for that is if you're contracting your triceps, you're straightening your arms. And we don't want to tear a bicep, which has happened to lots of great lifters. And I think one way to avoid that as much as possible, I think sometimes it's unavoidable, but if we're contracting our triceps, keeping your arm as straight as possible, you know, by definition, if your triceps are contracting, your biceps are not really going to be contracting, and that's going to reduce the chances of tearing a bicep. All right, so foot placement, hand placement, grip, initial pull, see that, lock the lats in, and then I start coming up. All the way up here. And as I'm doing that, I'm actively contracting my glutes. So, you know, my glutes are what bring my hips forward. So and those are very powerful muscles. So you really want to have that kind of mind muscle connection where you're actually actively engaging them, as well as my quads. Because my quads are what is really responsible for the initial drive. So that's why you'll see me dip down at the beginning of the movement, and then I'm pushing against the floor as I'm coming up, which is another cue that I use. Is while people call the deadlift a pull, I like to think of it as a push, where I'm holding onto a bar and I'm pushing the floor or the earth or whatever you want to call it away from me rather than pulling the bar upward. And I found that helps engage the leg muscles more. So definitely something to try. As the weight gets heavier, like I said, I'll double overhand until I can't do that anymore. For mixed grip, I do something that I think is not that common and people ask me about it, but I alternate grips, set to set. So like, once it gets heavy, usually about 500 is when I start alternating my grip. And I'll literally do, like competition-wise, I do my right hand under. I feel slightly stronger that way. Then my next set, I'll do left hand under, so on and so forth. And the reason I do that is to prevent imbalances. I think when you think about years of powerlifting and the weight's heavy enough, I mean, if the hundreds, thousands probably of repetitions you're doing, if it's all like this, that's likely to create an imbalance. I heard one time that a chiropractor can look at a powerlifter just standing and know which side they supinate the hand, and that's because it's going to show an imbalance. Also, that essentially cuts the bicep stress in half. you know, if I'm alternating which hand is pronated or supinated rather, then, you know, I'm putting 50% stress on each bicep as opposed to 100% on one. So I think it's worth toying around with that. Also, you know, as the weights get heavy enough, you'll start to tear your hands. And I've had that happen where I remember a meet years ago where I tore a callus, and just with that tear, it was more comfortable to pull the left hand under. And thankfully I practiced obviously half my lifts like that, and so I was fine doing that. So it kind of gives you sort of more another weapon to work with essentially. All right, so that's really how I set up and execute the deadlift. I hope you got something out of it. If you have any questions or comments, just post those below. Again, there's not one way to do it. There's a lot of different ways, and I've actually learned my technique from watching other people's videos too. So I encourage you to check numerous sources to develop your own style. And if you're a sumo puller, then I look at, you know, Dan Green or Steffi Cohen's videos, and you'll learn a lot there. Thank you.